All right. Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Justine and Jessica. We're going to be talking about flexibility and movement and Jessica's history with sport as being a professional athlete. So, just an exciting part because movement is so important for all of our joints, for just waking up and getting those creaks out and that stiffness out, but even much, much more. So, Jessica, welcome. I'm so happy you're with us. Tell us a little bit about what is your favorite sport? How did you get involved with it?
Hi, Justine. Thanks so much for having me again today. I personally have always really loved dance. It's been my family for years. My aunt was my ballet teacher and inspiration growing up. And, dance has been always so exciting. There's so many different aspects to it, different types of dance. I grew up in ballet and jazz and tap. Being able to move to music and just enjoy different teachers, different training, different types of dance has always been really exciting. And of course, I did it professionally, which was amazing, getting to experience things on TV and stage and having the experience of just performing and entertaining for people was always super exciting for me. So
pretty cool. And I know Jessica from her mom, Lydia, from church. And your mom even talks about dancing in the kitchen, and loving music still to this day, which is amazing. I think that can not only the movement is great, but just listening to it lifts our soul, helps us manage stress. And we have tons of stress going on. Can you share with us some of the lessons or challenges and how you got over those challenges in your journey of sport? I mean, getting to a professional level, it certainly couldn't have been easy. So tell us a little bit about that journey and some of the challenges and lessons you had.
It was definitely a hard journey going through dance. I started when I was really young at the age of 4. And I knew I wanted to be a dancer from a very young age. So training was obviously key. I trained in a bunch of different sports or different types of dance, and it took up a lot of my time. So we were, training 3, 4, maybe 5 to 6 times a week, competing on weekends and things. But I think some of the challenges that I learned growing up or learned from now is that I've always been kind of a perfectionist. And so I would always practice and practice and practice and practice. And if I didn't get it right, I would just keep pushing and pushing. And my aunt, again, was my ballet teacher. And so she would have to tell me, like, it's okay, like, come back to it tomorrow. You practice today. That's good. It doesn't have to be perfect. So just knowing that you don't always have to be perfect. Some people have off days. You're going to have those days where you don't feel like working out. Maybe you don't feel as flexible. Maybe you're not feeling great. And it's okay to come back to those another day. And sometimes after resting, after recouping that night, you can come back and actually push yourself again the next day further than you would have gotten if you kept going the day before. So that is one of the biggest things that, I learned through my dance training. As a professional, it was a little bit different because, I almost had to push myself more because I didn't have that training every day. I had to go out and seek classes myself. I had to go out and find the training that I needed in order to keep my flexibility and my mobility up to what I needed it to be in order to be in professional level and to be able to go out to auditions and not injure myself. So that was something that I also had to learn, was the balance between those two things. It was very different being a professional dancer than a studio dancer. So.
Mm-hmm. And my goal is anybody moving, I don't care what you look like. If you're moving, it's good. I don't care what kind of dance, little jive, it doesn't matter. As long as you're slow dancing, and even if it's in the kitchen or the living room, it's all good. Again, it's just good for your health and your overall physical part, but also for your stress. Can you just, as a dancer, what would be a warm up? What would be a typical training session, or how would you arrange your so that you wouldn't do the same muscles all the time? How would you arranging a training schedule throughout a week?
Again, as a dancer growing up, it was kind of scheduled for us. So depending on the studio that we went to, and your level of training. So I danced as a competitive dancer. So they would split up classes during the week. So you would maybe rehearse with ballet twice a week, and it would be on different days of the week. But on average, usually you're starting off with slower movements, maybe doing like rolls, head rolls. You're kind of maybe doing jumping jacks. You're kind of getting those movements slowly started before going into some of the bigger activities. Especially on things like ballet, we would start off in places like the bar. So you're using something like the bar as support in order to get your posture correct, in order to just sort of slowly warm up all your muscles and your joints. And then we would move into center practice and some larger jumps and turns. And usually by the end of class, you're doing some kind of choreography. You're doing some kind of routine that would sort of build up to those moments. So you're doing bigger jumps and turns and things at that point. And I think any kind of workout, like even when I'm doing things now, still starting off slower, doing light stretches, holding them for a little bit longer, doing light movements first, and then building up as the session goes on to bigger movements. Just warming things up is always really good. So
I couldn't agree with you more. And some of these warm-ups could be used just to start your day, not even to get to a professional dancer level. I'm sure over time you've seen at different clubs where you've taught at, or you've been a student, or even just other colleagues where they've done improper training or improper warm-up. What would that look like?
Oh, well, goodness, when we were, warming up professionally, sometimes we would just, drop into a full split just from a cold body. And that, I know we were doing it thinking like, oh, we're young, it doesn't matter, we just need to warm up fast. But actually that actually can cause more injuries later on. It may not affect you right away, especially when you're young, because your muscles are a little bit more limber, right? But over time, that can really damage. You can pull muscles, you can strain, joints and things like that. It's not very good. But I've actually heard and seen even teachers who aren't training their kids properly. They're pushing them too quickly, too young to do certain things. So for instance, in like ballet, some people will push kids a little bit too young to do things like point work. And it actually comes down to being like your feet have to be a certain structure in order to support your ankles, in order to be able to do point properly. And when you push that too soon, you can actually get issues in your feet and your ankles. Or even nowadays with a lot of competitive dancers, you see a lot of these TV shows where they're doing a lot of tricks and big movements. It's all about the showiness of it. And so a lot of these people are comparing themselves with what they see on TV. And so they're not doing correct turns or correct jumps, and potentially can blow out their knees or their ankles and even their hips. Like a lot of the joint issues that dancers are experiencing now is because they're just pushing themselves too quickly, too soon, and not learning how to do those tricks. Like they might be able to do those tricks, but knowing how to do it properly and gradually building up to that is really what they should be doing.
And I think that's all sport, but
yeah,
definitely more so in dance, because as a chiropractor, I've seen so many injuries from the big toe to the metatarsals, which is the ball of your foot, to the ankle, MCL strains, whiplash, like from the foot really right up to the neck. Have you had any dance injuries? And if so, how did you overcome them?
Interestingly enough, I never really had big injuries when I was actually training in dance. I only had a very minor sprain in my ankle that I had rolled over when I had bumped into somebody. I'd stepped on them and rolled my ankle. But actually, even at that point, I went to my chiropractor, and they did some therapy on, I think it was laser therapy at the time. But they ended up, because I couldn't walk on that ankle. My doctor had told me, he's like, stay off your foot for a whole month. And my chiropractor got me walking in 2 weeks. So I've always gone that route, because I know that they're looking at your whole body. They're looking at how it connects to other parts of your body. And so I've actually had more injuries since I've stopped dancing, because I'm not doing that type of training. I'm getting older. I think I'm more prone to injury now. So I think it's just being mobile, keeping up, doing things. Sitting and being inactive is actually worse for you. Now when I'm doing things, I'm doing things that are maybe slower, maybe not as high impact. For me, I have issues when I'm doing really a lot of heavy lifting or very heavy aerobics. Like I don't like running because it's hard on my knees. And I do have some knees that end up getting sore and tweak a little bit if I do too much things like running or climbing stairs. So because I know that is a spot that I'm prone to getting injured in, I'll avoid certain types of movements now. But I've had to learn, obviously over time, which things are okay for me to do and which things are not. So it's kind of knowing my range of motion and what I'm capable of now. So yeah, but recently I've been dealing with a low back issue. So I'm just sort of focusing on strengthening exercises, a lot of core, holding movements that will help strengthen overall rather than doing a bunch of like super heavy lifting and things. So
awesome. And along with getting your chiropractic care for your back and your shoulder, that's awesome. And then
yes.
the next thing is nutrition, right? Because that plays a huge role. I know there's so many challenges in dance, and gymnastics and figure skating with anorexia, bulimia, with body image. What have you seen in the sport?
Unfortunately, I, have, being in dance, I think it's always going to be something because body image, again, you're in front of a lot of people, you're performing, you're comparing yourself to others. It is unfortunately one of those types of industries that does do that. But I think for anybody who is experiencing that, it's about communication. If you're seeing somebody who, especially as a teacher, if you think they're having some kind of eating disorder, communicating with parents and trying to help out, maybe there's another reason why it's happening. Body image, though, that I deal with now is I am very aware of that even as I have my own business, because now we're fitting a lot of people and people are conscious about their measurements. But it's about feeling good in your body, who you are in your own skin, and being okay with that. It's, it's a lot of mental mentality than it is just about your physical body. It's kind of, I think it's kind of both. It goes into both things. So body image is kind of it's kind of a bigger topic. And I think nowadays, a lot of people are more aware of body image. You see a lot of brands that they're coming out supporting all different types of body figures. And that's great, which I think is good. But no matter if you feel like you're overweight or underweight, I think it's just being aware of whether or not an eating habit is becoming out of control, or if it's being really focused on, and just trying to find good habits, good healthy habits, either or in both directions. So it is a big topic.
So important. Yeah, it's a very important topic because it's not just coaches saying you need to lose weight or you need to be a certain weight or you're too heavy for those jumps. Like it can be that look as well as even not even a comment, but then it's among the athletes, the girls, the guys, right? That there's comments made in the dressing rooms, right? That can be pretty hurtful and lead to these detrimental mental health issues, really, like you said, and then of course lead to a cascade of other health issues. One of the things that we talked about earlier was that there was a difference between flexibility and mobility. Can you explain a little bit about that?
So mobility is really just the range of motion of your joints, and flexibility is like the muscles and how far they are able to stretch. So they kind of are both very important, but they can also both be increased. So If you have not so great flexibility, you actually can train and work at getting more flexible. Mobility, I think, is one of those things that the average person needs to just be aware of. Getting up, moving their body, moving, your hips, moving your arms and your shoulders, and just doing something that's moving your body. Flexibility is kind of one of those things that you don't necessarily need to have in order to be active. A lot of flexibility can come depending on what sport or what activities you're doing. You're going to be more flexible in different areas. So for dance, obviously stretching and getting more flexibility in your legs, in your hamstrings, and in your quads and things like that are going to be very important because you're using your legs a lot. If you're doing maybe other sports like tennis or something, you're going to want more flexibility in your shoulders and, working on your range of motion more in there. But they kind of go hand in hand, but you don't need to be flexible in order to be mobile, but you definitely need to be mobile. So
Yeah, I couldn't agree. We all need to be moving and mobile. So for a typical dancer, what would you recommend to be on the healthcare team for them to be at the top shape possible as a top level dancer for yourself, for your, other peers that were professional dancing? What would be some of the professionals on their healthcare team?
For me, it was always, working with my chiropractor, physiotherapist, and then obviously the teachers that are at your studio. Work with them to figure out what types of training you need. If you want to be somebody who's in it professionally, you might want to increase the hours that you're training, how often you're training. Maybe you want to expand and do different types of training, because things in dance, like if you're training for ballet, jazz and tap will use different muscles, will access different parts of your body, will give you different musicality and things like that. So if you're getting into different types of dance, that obviously will increase your types of training for you. So for me, though, working with my chiropractor was always very important, because if I was off, like if my shoulders were out or my hips were out, my turns were off. So I had to go back and make sure that my body was aligned so that my dancing actually was better. And I knew when my hips were out because my turns were bad. So it's one of those things I would blame myself. And I'm like, no, you know what? My physical body needs to go get an adjustment in order to keep me aligned, so that like if your hips are out, you're not going to have that same range of motion in your hip joint to be able to do a split or a jump, or to be able to do those types of bigger moves properly. And it obviously, being in alignment will also help with flexibility. It'll help with strength. It'll even prevent you from getting injured, because if you're pushing yourself knowing that you're out of alignment, then you can actually injure yourself more. So
Totally. Now, getting to those high level sports and certainly getting to professional level, there's times when you get frustrated. You've been let down by a coach, or not accepted for a part. Not getting to where your dreams are, and similarly happening when you're not able to dance and you have to figure out what retiring means. What are some of the coping methods that you use to manage stress and manage those frustrations along your career path?
Well, you know what? They've changed over the years. My coping mechanisms now were probably different than they used to be when I was actually dancing. Now, again,
Let's start with dance first, and then tell us where you are at right now.
So back then, coping for me wasn't necessarily the healthiest. If I didn't get a role, I did actually get quite upset, but I would actually go to the gym. For me, doing some kind of exercise would release that stress that I was having.
That's what I do. If I'm worried about something, I need to sweat it out.
Yeah. So like if I was feeling just really irritated or really bothered by something, I would actually go to a class. I would go to the gym. At the gym I was going to, they had a pool. So sometimes I would swim, and just, I would feel so much better leaving, knowing that tension was released a little bit. What it looks like now, though, is more of the the meditation, it's more relaxation for me. Because the frustration now with mobility and flexibility and just being able to be motion and doing those types of things is resulted because I ended up having my career end so quickly because of vertigo. So now I'm dealing with vertigo issues. But for me, it's the meditation, it's unwinding and just sort of relaxing. And that sort of releases stress for me now. So
yeah, I think that it's different for everybody, and certainly finding ways for people or faith to lean on in those tough times can be really challenging, because every athlete, especially as they go to their highest level, it faces their challenges, right? You fall down, you have to get back up. Falling down being the metaphor that you don't get either the part, or you don't perform the way you can. You just have an off day, and you beat yourself up over it. And even though maybe nobody else noticed in the audience, you know in your heart that it wasn't your best day. I've been at a hockey game. I know I had a bad game, but my mom would say, "Oh, it was a great game." And I'm like, "No, it wasn't." So right? And that can eat you up, and finding ways to manage that. Some of the expectations from coaches, from parents, can be pretty tough. I know in dance, when you get into that competitive level, many dancers are expected to be there, 15 to 20 hours a week, sometimes even more. The coaches just want to push you more and more and more. That helps them look better too, if you perform better. So there's this pressure to be liked by your coaches, to be your trainers, to be one of the best in the club. How did you manage those expectations when you were younger?
You know what? I don't think I did very well. I can give advice now on
that's great though, because yeah, hindsight is the best insight.
I wish I had, I guess, communicated my goals more. Back then, I was really hard on myself. I was, again, a perfectionist. I kind of still am, but I'm learning to try and not be that way. So, I would always compare myself, and I would look at the kids getting the roles, and I would get really upset, and, I would be really hard on myself, and I would take it out on my mom, on my poor mom. We would get in so many fights about things that were not even related, but it was because, in dance, you can be very insecure about those types of things. And I knew I was good. That's the thing. I was a good dancer. It's just I was frustrated not getting those parts. But I don't think, I communicated. I think communication is key. So if you're at like a gym club, or especially in dance, there's different levels now that are being offered, depending on your commitment. So if you want to be a professional dancer, you need the extra hours, you need the extra training. But if you're, somebody who doesn't want to be at that level, I think, communicating with the studio that you're at, finding a studio that will support what your goals are. But I think once you've talked that out and you realize, okay, I want to have this goal at the end of the year or the end of the month, if everybody kind of knows that, then you can be encouraged to reach that goal. And hopefully your coaches will understand, or your teachers will understand where you're trying to get to, and then assist you in that. When you get people who maybe don't communicate as well, or they're really trying to push themselves, or if you have a coach or a teacher that's trying to push you beyond what you really want to do, you're not going to respond very well to that. And, you're going to end up maybe quitting. Like we've seen kids quit, or, they try and push themselves too much and they get injured, or it's mentally too challenging and they end up, not treating their mental health properly. So that was my best. I think that's my best advice now, is I wish I had communicated that with my parents, with, the teachers that I had. I do wish that maybe I could have switched studios maybe a little sooner, because the studio I was at was maybe not the right studio for me for as long as I stayed there. So it's finding the studio, or the club, or, the team that will support you in where you are and where you want to be.
It is you get that loyalty factor, or you think it's always going to be better next year.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to leave. It's hard to leave a studio, a gym, a team, a coach,
Mm-hmm.
because you have this hope that next year it'll be better, or next year it'll be different. And then to leave the people you care about, like the
Yeah.
people that you like to be with, and to start new friends and new relationships is certainly challenging, having left teams myself. But I do see some of the young athletes, dancers especially, in 10 different dances. So they got 10 different dances to memorize and 10
Mm-hmm.
different dresses or outfits to get. And if for young people, that can be overwhelming. And the expectations are so high at times that they want that to please their parents, to please the coach, and maybe not, like you said, their true goal. So that communication is needed. One of the things you talked to me about was mindful moving. What's that to you?
So this is something that I'm thinking about now. And again, I think more people are becoming more mindful in general. Back when I was dancing, mindfulness wasn't really taught. It wasn't a word that people were really using much. But for me, we've adapted this and adopted this as a company, because mindfulness is a whole body thing. It's not just being aware of how you're thinking, or how you're moving, or what you're eating, or how much time you're spending doing any particular thing. It's all of these things kind of put together. So mindful moving, again, is being aware of your body, knowing your limitations, maybe trying to push yourself to the next level, but not overdoing it. So it's just being aware of your physical abilities and trying to improve, but not, going too far. And again, it's just a whole body thing. And as a company, we're actually mindful about where our products are coming from, what ingredients are in them. So we're sort of keeping that in mind in order to give our community and the people who we're servicing good quality products, things that will serve them well, that will help them be better at what they're doing, and not have to worry about it, because the focus is on their exercise, the movement that they're doing. They shouldn't be worried about the things that they're wearing or the things they're putting on, because we've done that. We've been mindful about those things so that you can be mindful about your activity and the things that you're doing that make you feel good, that make you want to move more. Being mindful about even if you're somebody who sits at a desk, it's just being mindful, like, I've been sitting for this long, let's get up, let's go for a walk. It helps with your mental health, it helps release stress. And then obviously overall, it's also what you're consuming. So, maybe if you're mindful about what you're eating at lunch, maybe making sure you're eating, because some people, my mom's terrible at this. She just, will snack instead of eating lunch. And so we're like, go get some lunch, go eat something that's good for you. And all of those things put together is what mindful moving, I think, sort of embodies as a whole. So
I love the term mindful moving, and it's a great term for maximized living, because again, we want the 5 essentials, all of those areas. And also have injured my neck or injured my back, that I'd love to go water skiing. When I watch the kids water skiing, I'm like, the water's not too forgiving if I wipe out now, but I can do, I can't maybe run every day, but I can run every other day. So finding that balance of cross training, and everybody's got to find their own cross training and balance, so they're mindful of where their body's at that time, with just that little extra nudge to do a little bit more. I love how you brought it into your business. I love the outfit I can see behind there. I love the color of it. Tell us a little bit more about your business. I'm planning to go there myself. They also do lots of great stuff for not just dancers, for others. So tell us a little bit about your business.
So it's myself and my mom. We work together, and we actually make and design and sew all of our own dancewear and activewear right here on location. And we're located in Brampton. Because I have a dance background, I'm aware about what types of things people need in order to be able to move freely, to feel comfortable in what they're wearing. For many years, we've focused on dancers and skaters and gymnastics, and we're sort of opening that up now. We've opened up a retail store location in the front area of our space so that we can have these products ready, available for people to come in and try on. But we're expanding what we are offering to other sports and other activities. And we actually have brought in a lot of supportive products as well that help people sort of relax at the end of a workout, that helps support them while they're training. We've got some new tapes coming in. We've got things like supportive socks that are good for compression for people who are running or who might be doing yoga and other types of sports that aren't necessarily dance. And yeah, we're just sort of bringing these all in so that we can provide people with the best experience when they're exercising or doing movements.
Yeah, you got to be comfortable. Otherwise, if you're not comfortable, you're not likely to do it. Tell us
Exactly.
where you're located and how we could come find you and see your store.
So we are located in Brampton, just off of the 410 and the 407. So we are located at 180 Wilkinson Road, and we're at unit number 33. And our phone number here is 905-796-8484. And we also have a website that people can go and find. It's at myowndesign.ca. And people can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram if they'd like to keep up on some of the new products we're bringing in and see what we have.
Well, I'm looking forward to do it myself. Thank you for sharing your journey as a professional dancer and just the journey of how to retire, or even if you have to retire early, and see your chiropractor to stay in shape for your back, your shoulder, your vertigo. Keep in touch with your chiropractor. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to talking to you again soon as we learn more about nutrition and how to be gluten-free coming up. So coming up talks, we do have talks on for the kids, Max Kids, to be healthy, the A to Z quick fix areas, and then tried some helpful hints to get kids to be able to follow along, even if parents want it and the kids don't. Nighttime leg cramps, we're going to remember those ones that just grab you in the middle of the night and wake you up in the middle of the night. How to deal with increasing your energy in the morning. I'm a morning person, so that's my favorite. And then on balance and fall prevention, great one for our seniors. So stay tuned. Every week we have a great topic. We love to share these with friends and family. They are free. We want to be a part of your healthcare community in order to be able to help all of us be our best. So take care and stay tuned.